not a good thing. Um, when you're traveling abroad, do not stay in Airbnbs. If you got the money to make that trip, spend a little extra money to stay in a nice 3, 4, or 5-star hotel. Um, I was in Mexico, stayed in a nice 3-star hotel. I wanted to spend a week, being pampered, right? And so I stayed in that hotel. And when I came in, okay, after being out, okay, um, I would come in alone because I left alone. I wasn't there to pay and play. And the desk guy had told me, he said, when you came back the other evening, he said 3 women had came up here looking for you, asking for your room. Did you have anything to do with that? I said, no. I said, because if I would have given them my room number, I would have told them. He said, well, that's our safeguard. He said, I just thought I would tell you. He said, because we don't allow anybody in here. When you get this room, you come in, you have to let us know if you have somebody else coming to visit you, or if you do come back with someone, you check them in. They have to have an ID. They scan and take a picture of them and this and that. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. I said, well, and then I joking when you asked him, I said, so what them women want to do, rape men, isn't it? He started laughing. He said, no, they probably would have robbed you, and he was very straight faced. And I said, well, thank you so much, because I took it serious. This is what happens when you travel abroad, especially if you're a man traveling alone. The first thing they think is you're there to indulge in the, the libations. And no, that wasn't it for me. But you're safe staying in a hotel that is reputable because you know who owns, well, they own the hotels too, but they protect their money there. But the Airbnbs, that's not like in the US. Airbnbs are owned by the cartel. They have cameras, hidden cameras in them things. They're watching your movements. Okay. And if you needed emergency services, it's not coming. Okay. How you going to be able to sound an alarm for emergency services or whatever? They are watching you. They own that Airbnb, and guys are coming up missing. And they have no way of knowing anything about his movements because he was staying in an Airbnb. Okay. All they can say is, well, the taxi dropped him and, a lady friend off. Well, that lady friend is where I'm going now. Okay. You got a girl that was in a barrio. The cartel sees her, and it's not the big cartel. See, there's layers to the cartel. Okay, the street gangs, the young boys on the street see her. Oh, she's pretty. Blah blah blah. They will take her. Right? There's no ifs and buts about it. They control those barrios. That girl will end up take her off somewhere, and they will keep her for about 2 weeks. All they'll do is sexually assault her. Teams of them all day long. This is what they do. Then eventually, after a couple of weeks, then they'll feed her a full meal because they just keeping her alive for that first 2 weeks of pure hell and trauma that she's going to go through, the beatings and everything else. And then after about a week of feeding her and trying to play nice to her, they will put makeup on her and clothing on her and they send her to work. And she works faithfully thereafter. Okay. And the nightclubs are owned by the cartel. Now the street gangs work for the cartel, but they're a low level. See, the cartel's not, their big money don't come from sex trafficking. The street gangs' money come from sex trafficking. Okay. And they don't get to touch drugs. All right. Until they make that second tier. So they don't even go into the clubs. Those young boys, they're on motorbikes. They're outside on the street, grinning and smiling at all them foreigner guys coming by. And those foreigner guys see the little young boys and they just, oh, they'll give them a couple dollars or something, thinking they doing something, you know. And young boys just smiling at him. He don't need that couple dollars. He's making big money off of them because that girl that you meet in that club, he put makeup on her. He had her hair done. He gave her those clothes, shoes, jewelry, everything. That's all loaner stuff to trap that foreigner, get money out of that old boy. All right. And they do what they can. And if they can figure out how to get your information off your cell phone or out of your wallet, your cards, or whatever, then you're not going to make it back to the United States. Okay. All that money that you spending in that club, that goes to the cartel. Okay. Now you're in the club. The girl wants party. You want party favors. Okay. A lot of brothers have said, oh man, shoot, man, old girl, you know, I was with old girl and she got the bomb weed. Like, for one thing, black men don't smoke weed like that. That's not a thing that we do or drink real heavy. So they were dancing, being stepping and fetching out there, you know, playing the role. Okay. Them girls get you them party favors and stuff that's coming from the middle guys. The guy who manages the club, he's the middle guy. Now, he's not on the street. He's not the street gangster. Okay. Them girls is paying him. Okay. So that they could even come into that club. Okay. And they have to, you know, make so much money off of those foreigner guys. And it's not out and out prostitution. The money they're making is what they can scam. Okay. And they scam a lot. Because once they get your credit card, man, they can get, if you say you got a $5,000 limit on your card, do you know that they will end up getting 100,000 off that card? And they can do it quick. I don't know how they do it, but they get some money. And that's how they operate. Okay. And they are in the drugs. Okay. Those managers. Okay. Now this mid level. Now they're able to touch drugs, the drug trade. Okay. So they're right in the middle. They're handling all that money in the middle. But at the very top is where the drug dealers, the cartel managers, and they don't do business with Americans on foot. Their business is done with the alphabets in DC. They sell direct to the DEA, CIA, FBI. And if you don't believe me, God damn it, you got enough doggone stories that been told. That's how they got crack cocaine in the United States in the first place. CIA. What do you think Iran Contra was all about? It was money for drugs, or guns for money for drugs, and back to money. Okay. And it never stopped. Okay. They made a movie about, oh boy, he's flying. He was working for the CIA bringing drugs into the country. They don't have a problem getting drugs in the country. That's why when I tell you they have these so-called SWAT raids and this and that, old Joe here, he ain't got but a half a teaspoon of cocaine, and they'll say it in grams so that you won't know what in the fuck they talking about. Okay? He ain't got nothing. And they kick it in his door and beating the crap out of him, and it's their dough. They sold it to him months ago. Okay. They wait until he done sold off most of it and paid them. They got their money out of it. So they'll go and do a bust for optics. So you got to be very, very careful because when you're traveling, you're staying in places that you have no business. Okay. You're whining and dining in third world countries with the elite, and the elite are some scoundrels. They're not good people. Okay. When I first came to the Philippines, friend of mine. I befriended him. He's a guy. He presented himself as, a realtor. And by all accounts, he is. Okay. Um, he could find in me property that was being, for rent properties or for sale properties. He could find it when nobody else could. Okay. And he was well trusted, or is well trusted even to this day, by uh, the locals as somebody to go to if you want to rent a place or get a place or buy some land. But one of the contracts he had, I'll say it's a contract, was with those gated communities. And that fellow took me to a gated community. Nathan, I want you to see this now. You could buy one of these properties, and because they don't allow you to buy land here in this country. Because really what you're buying is the house. You're not buying the actual land because the land belongs to the developer. And so he took me there. And when we drove up, there's all these guys with guns out front, and they literally, I felt like I was being led inside of a high maximum security prison. Okay. They wanted to know everything about both of us. And they knew him even, but they still had to have his certain authorization to even come there. So they let us in and then escorted us around to the vacant houses. And I had the worst feeling. Okay. And I told him, I said, man, I need to get out of here. This ain't me. He said, well, let's go to the office. I got to go to the office because now that I've been in here, I have to go to the office, turn in these papers to say that I've shown you this property, that property, that property. So I guess he could get credit for it or whatever. So we went to the office of the developer. Now, strangely enough, my last name is Robinson and the name of the development company is Robinson. They own all the malls here in Philippines and stuff, and they're very, very rich. So the name Robinson. So we pull up to the Robinson uh, management company. Nothing but security out front. Oh my goodness. I was like, oh, not again. They didn't even want to let us in the building. Okay. So a lady came out and escorted us inside because he was valid. Escorted us inside. You could not go upstairs. So we had to be down here waiting. Then two people from upstairs came down and wanted to pressure me out of 10,000 pesos, just like a couple $100. Well, you went and looked at these properties. So which one did you just pressure me? And, you got to give, 10,000, peso for this. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, first of all I did was look. I said, I didn't say I wanted anything. And they were like, come on, well, it's 10,000 pesos, take it off the market. I said, I don't want you to take it off no damn market. If I want it and it's available when I'm ready to give you the money for it, then that's when I get it. I'm not giving you 10. And they still trying to get that 10,000 peso out of me. I'm like, now I see why there's so much security out there because these motherfuckers got a scam going. When you give money, they don't give it back. You pay down for a house and if the deal don't go through, you don't get your money back. And I was like, oh my God. I said, no. And I told old boy, I said, man, this ain't going to work for me. I said, let's stay away from these people because these are scoundrels. But what, 3, 4 weeks later, I'm at the mall and I see this older white couple. And I wasn't going to say anything to them because white people don't speak to black Americans. They don't consider us American. Okay. They, like that. But this wasn't the case because I was talking to somebody and the lady looked at me and came running over to me. You're American? I said, yeah. And she was kind of embarrassed, you know. And I said, "Don't be embarrassed." I said, "Because sure, I don't know if you Italian or French or whatever either." I said, "You know, we have to identify ourselves as Americans." She started laughing, and her husband said, "Yeah." He said, "Because I sure thought you was going to come out with some Nigerian or something on." I told him, I said, "Yeah." I said, "But I was American." And so we got to talking, and then she was telling me, she said, "How do you like it here?" And I said, "Well," I said, "it's been working for me." You know, I said, "Because I'm single and everything." I said, "It works out great for me." I said, "I couldn't come over here with a wife like your husband did with all these pretty women running around." And she thought that was just terrible. "Oh, no, he's not looking." I said, "No, he's not looking." But anyway, she's telling me, she said, "Well, they're there to help their son and daughter in law with the kids. They have two small kids." And they wanted to come and spend a few months, you know, because the daughter-in-law was talking about how overstressed she is because she's a young attorney, and their son worked for some relief agency or something, you know. And so they lived in a private gated community. And she told me that her and her husband got so rattled that now they don't even be there during the day. What they do is they take the kids, they go to the mall, or they go, you know, to nice little scenic areas, parks, or waterfalls, or something like that. They try to stay away from the gated community where their son and daughter-in-law live. They said, what happened is that, you know, she's, you know, grandmother, right? So the kids out at the little park, they're inside the gated community, and they're playing with the other little kids. And there's this man that would be sitting off to the side there. And she said every day that man would be there. You know, sometimes he wouldn't, sometimes he would. But, you know, um, depending on how many kids was there, because if there were a lot of kids, he's only sitting there. And she said it bothered her to the utmost. And she said she didn't want to seem like, over, protective, you know, so she wasn't going to say anything to really anybody. But she said to her son that, you know, it kind of bothered her, and she took pictures and showed her son, and he showed his wife, and his wife said, "Well, I'll ask around quietly about this, you know, this guy sitting there." Because, you know, she assured her, she said, here in the Philippines, if somebody messed with a kid, they're as good as dead. They take him out. She said, "But, you know, I'll quietly ask around about this guy." So they come back a couple days later and tell grandma and grandpa he's security. Those kids, there's a couple of kids in that be at that playground. His job is to watch over them 24/7 with a gun. He got a gun on him. Okay. If somebody even look like they want to come near them kids, he's going to blast them away. And she said that rattled them so much. And she said, the time told them, said, "Yeah, most of these people live here have private security. They have private security. They can stand in a certain portion of their house, you know." And lady looked at me. She said, "How in the hell are they living?" I said, "Those are scoundrels." I said, "You're in a third world country, essentially, by economic standpoint. And you're there, and you got people who are multimillionaire, and you rubbing shoulders with the multimillionaire. They go from them to dirt poor. Okay. How you think they got that money? You think they just through their suaveness? No. I said, those are scoundrels. Those people have begged, borrowed, and stolen. Politicians, corrupt. That's who you're living amongst. You know, the high rankers in these communities. That's it. Get used to that." And she told me, her and her husband, you know, they said, well, they're going to try to get the son to get out of that and go live amongst the locals because they just felt bad. you know. But then it wasn't a couple weeks later, the security guy who was over those two kids, okay, him and his boss and another security guy all got whacked. So somebody really had it out for him. Probably them Chinese. They're the big Chinese mafia here. If you want to play in that arena, you're gonna get a taste of it. And so that's a warning when you go to these countries. Um, be careful. Yeah, you're going. I come here to exploit the economy, and it's done well for me because I don't mess with the people like that. I take advantage of how cheap everything is. They ain't gonna bother me. They don't want to bother me. I ain't nobody. I'm not gonna be on their radar. But now, if I went to the bars and mess with the women, and that's the dangerous part, because you got a man or men coming to your country throwing money around to beautiful young women. There's going to be some hint of jealousy there to the point where they're going to try to exploit you. Okay. You're all in their face. You 60 and 70 years old, and you walking around with their granddaughters, exploiting them, throwing money at them. And this man has got to look at you, say he's your age. And he's looking at you from down there on the curb because that's where he's got to sit. That's where he's got to eat. That's where he's got to live. And then you coming in and walking up on top of him. Okay. And so now, in the Central and South American countries, because I put Costa Rica in there as Central America, and uh, going to South, which is Venezuela and Colombia, and all that. And then, even worse, going to the DR. I'll get into that in just a second. But you go into those areas, and these are young white guys, young black guys, young Asian guys from America going down there trying to exploit the young girls. And you think they love you down there because that guy is grinning and smiling at you. I'm going to tell you. I met an old man one time. He was a shoe shine, did shoe shine. So that, they grinning all the time while they shine shoe, you know. And he worked for, what's his name over there in Harlem, Bumpy or whatever. He was a hitman. He worked Central Station. So, how I'm going to put it, those people grinning at you, smiling at you, you don't know what they're thinking about you. Look at yourself from their eyes. Place yourself in their position. They're dirt poor. Okay. Them little coins that you got in your pocket could feed them that day. Okay. And you got big paper in there. Okay. And you walking past them and you flaunting your wealth. They don't care about you. Okay. And they starving to death. Oh no. Mm-mm. No, buddy. You are in trouble because they're going to turn around. Okay. And look the other way when somebody wants to do some harm to you. They ain't gonna sit up there and continue to grin at you. You're gonna get out of the way and let whatever bad gonna happen to you happen to you. So be careful, you guys. Um, it's not safe to travel anywhere. Now you got the West all attacking a small group of people called Palestinians. They say, oh, we're fighting Hamas. I have not seen one Hamas lately. I don't know what a Hamas even look like, but that's who they're claim they're after, and they just bombed a school. They're bombing all the other countries around there, trying to do what? I don't know. I'm not that deep into their politics psyche, but I do know one damn thing. The world don't like it. Other countries don't like it. Seeing that type of hostility, that type of aggression, billions and billions of dollars. When they say, hey, we want to give money to Israel, there's nobody squawking except for a few Congress people, and those people are scorned. They're called progressives. you know, oh, they're progressive, you know, uh, and they're, the blacks in Congress and saying, "Hey, let's put the brakes on this. Let's not give this man money. We're giving him money to kill and murder children and annihilate a whole like concentration camp of people, and it's all because you want to get a few fellas." United States went to war with Afghanistan, over 1,000 men, because that's all the amount of men that was allowed in Al Qaeda. That's their role. Their tally was 1,000 in Al Qaeda. You can fact check me on that if you want. They spent $3 trillion after just 1,000 men. 23 years of fighting, killing, and murdering over a million in Iraq. And Iraq, we all know, didn't have anything to do with Al Qaeda. Nothing. But that was just that country. And you got all the other countries. There's no great sentiment for America right now. And you guys be very, very careful how you walk, how you move if you're going to leave the U.S. borders. Okay. And my next video is going to be address that mentality that you have where you think you are so American, so talking this we and us and all that kind of stuff. If you are a man or woman of color, you better stay away from the political process. I'm going to go into that. We're going to tie that together so that you guys stop being and talking and acting, and because it's foolish. It's foolish. I'll show you just why you're not an American. Have you agree that you're not an American and you're still like a damn fool who's been just traumatized? Will still sit up there and say, I still want to, my colonizer, my oppressor. I want to help my colonizer and oppressor continue to colonize and oppress me. I'll make you call the devil your God because you are so sick. All I got to do is ask you a few questions. I did that to a woman one time calling herself a Christian. You don't play with somebody who's got a high intellect. And by the time it was over with, that heifer sat up there and cursed God Almighty for a demon. Said, I'd much rather than go live with Satan then, since you call it my God, Satan. I love Satan then. It kept saying that. Of course, she's no longer with us, but I hate to think what happened to her soul. You guys, you're telling everybody that you love the devil more than you love God. You love your own soul because you don't even want to free your soul. But I'll show you that. And you're not going to like it. But I have to do it So for now, I love you, and I'm Nathan Robinson, and I am back quiet.